you qualify. 800-535-3787. Stop the wage garnishments, levies, and tax liens now. If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS, you may qualify for substantial relief and even forgiveness. See if you qualify and get the help you need by calling the Consumer Hotline, 800-535-3787. That's 800-535-3787. 800-535-3787.
The Pacific Northwest is once again getting battered today by what forecasters are calling a once-in-a-decade storm. After a water spout, a kind of water tornado brought damaging wind and rain to the region yesterday.
Storm number 2. This is an old typhoon, not a typhoon or hurricane any longer, but it's going to regenerate and starting to strengthen now. And the track of this is key as to how strong the winds get, but we're pretty confident at this point the coast will at least see 80-mile-plus winds. And then from Portland to Seattle, we could very well see damaging winds in excess of 50 or 60 miles an hour.
ABC News senior meteorologist Rob Marciano. Last call came and it went without an agreement, and now workers at one of the nation's largest distilleries are walking the picket line.
In Kentucky, the vote by union workers at Jim Beam distilleries in Claremont and Boston came hours before the existing contract was set to expire for the world's largest bourbon producer. Workers rejected the revised contract proposal by a wide margin, and union workers were set to start manning picket lines. The company said Friday night that it would carry out, quote, contingency plans to keep operations running at the two distilleries. The classic American whiskey brand is owned by Suntory Holdings, a Japanese beverage company.
ABC's Todd Ant. The World Food Program says it could be a decade or more before Haiti's southwestern peninsula recovers economically from Hurricane Matthew. The region is almost completely dependent on farming and fishing. Nearly 100% of crops and 50% of livestock were destroyed by the storm. This is ABC News.
When news breaks,
we've heard them talking about victims coming out.
ABC News Radio is there.
Police swarmed the house of the suspects, apparently battering down the door.
When terror gripped San Bernardino.
2 patrol cars went screaming by down this city street, probably 100 miles an hour.
ABC News Radio honored with the prestigious Edward R. Murrow Award for breaking news coverage. When news breaks, there's only one place to turn. ABC News Radio.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area this afternoon, it'll be sunny and windy. Our high 78 with gusts at 30 miles an hour. We'll have patchy fog tonight. It'll be mostly hot and windy. LA 57 with gusts at 30 miles an hour. Sunday, we'll have patchy fog in the morning. We'll have a mostly sunny day with a high 72 with winds to 30 miles an hour. For the Inland Empire, we'll have a sunny afternoon with a high of 79. For the desert cities, it'll be sunny with a high of 90. I'm Rod Tanner for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
Everywhere you go, someone's telling you to be more responsible, get up earlier, study harder, work more, go to bed earlier. But we're going to tell you something else. Get a Honda Grom and have more fun. The Grom has probably more smiles on faces than just any other motorcycle out there. It may be small, but it's supersized in terms of riding fun. And be sure, the Grom is a blast to ride, but it has a responsible side too, like its awesome fuel efficiency. So come on down to Honda of Redlands and check out a 2017 Honda Grom today. Responsibility meets fun on Planet Grom.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Welcome. It's time after a little bit of time off because of football. Welcome to Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, KMET, 1490 AM, every Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully you're also listening to Conservative Voice Radio at 8 a.m., which I also host, but not this week, but normally. And I've got in the studio with me, as always, to my right, Alex Ferguson. Alex, good to see you, buddy.
Howdy.
And also in the studio with us, and we'll give him more time to talk in the second half of the program, but we're going to have him on with us during the whole program. He's in studio with us. Brian Curtis, a.k.a. Curtis Nordal, or Curt Nordal, the author of What Pisses Me Off About the Good Old USA. And
good afternoon.
Good to have you in.
Thanks,
here.
Doug.
And folks, it's good to see you. Real quick before we get to the program, because I just because this is breaking news in Los Angeles. This morning there was a mass shooting. 3 dead, 12 wounded so far is what we know. at West Adams Restaurant in Los Angeles, Southern California, our area. 50 people were in the restaurant at the time of the shooting. After the shooting commenced, continued outside in the driveway of this restaurant, which is located in a converted house. The restaurant is a popular Jamaican eatery. That's all we know so far, but as we learn more, go to politicalpistachio.com, and I'll get some information on the website for you as we learn more. Now, on the line with us, and I'm pretty jazzed to have this gentleman, been following him for years, Mr. Larry Elder. This is, I guess he's called the firebrand libertarian. He calls himself the sage of South Central. He's the author of a number of books, a radio host. He's now with Salem, and he's on the air with us. Welcome to the show, Larry. It's great to have you on with us.
Douglas, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, the pleasure's all mine. Hey, I got a chance to interview you, matter of fact, out there in San Diego a few weeks ago, and got to see you again, and we bump into each other every once in a while, and always jazzed to see you. But I want first, though, before we get into all of that, you had a debate last Saturday. Roland S. Martin, is that the name?
Yeah, he's a talk show host with TV One. He's got a daily hour-long show on TV One, and I debated him at a church in Inglewood. It was almost a 3-hour debate. We debated for about 90 minutes, and then we also took about 90 minutes worth of questions from the audience. And he's convinced that he won. And of course, he got his butt kicked. But he's a victocrat, an angry black guy who's very successful, does quite well, and rather than tell black people to follow the same formula that he follows to become successful, hard work, deferred gratification, stay focused. It's the white man this, the white man that, slavery, Jim Crow, yada blah, et cetera. And it's ridiculous. Can I say something real quickly, though, Douglas, about this shooting you just now mentioned?
Absolutely.
It's in the area where I grew up. It's in South Central Los Angeles. And I read the article in the LA Times. There are a couple of things that jumped out at me. First of all, the suspects are at large. Don't you think it would be helpful if they gave us a description of the suspects? But there's no description whatsoever, no mention of race, which almost always means it's either black or brown people, because the newspapers lean over backwards to avoid the appearance that they're picking on anybody. If it had been a white cop, however, who had shot some people, believe me, we know the race of the dead people. We know the race of the cop. The other thing that I found interesting is that they quote Mayor Garcetti, the L.A. mayor, as saying this is yet another example of the, quote, easy accessibility of firearms, close quote. The guns just dumped up and they shot people. Individuals didn't shoot people. It was the easy access to firearms. And this is the intersection of the welfare state. People like Garcetti and his party have long promoted giving people money, and therefore you have the phenomenon of women marrying the government and men abandoning the financial and moral responsibility. Back in 1965, 25% of black kids were born outside of wedlock. The number now is 73%. And I didn't say it. Obama said a kid raised without a father is 5 times more likely to be poor, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. So you have a left-wing politician ignoring the real reason why we're having this violence in the absence of fathers, and then blaming the ready availability of handguns. You know, Scotty, beam me up.
Well, well, they're getting what they've been trying to do for a century. I mean, if you want to go all the way back to Margaret Sanger, I mean, you've got, more abortions of black babies in New York City than live births. You've got the Planned Parenthood being positioned in the inner cities.
Right.
You've got the welfare program, which has replaced Dad, so Dad has no reason even to be there. He's thrown out the front door. They're getting exactly what they wanted to get, or as Margaret Sanger basically said, is to eradicate the human weeds.
Well, absolutely. And you have cities like Chicago and Washington, D.C., where they passed gun control measure after gun control measure. Had it not been for 5 members of the Supreme Court, one of whom is now dead, we probably would have lost the individual right to keep and bear arms. And the very people that need to have protection, people living in the inner city where there's a disproportionate amount of violence, are the ones that have the greater difficulty in getting a firearm to defend themselves. The whole thing is just madness. And my point is, you have the mayor going down there, not diagnosing what the problem is, not taking responsibility, because the Democratic Party has done this. They've destroyed the black family. They've destroyed families. 25% of white kids are now born outside of wedlock. 50% of Hispanic kids are. They've done more damage to the black family than Jim Crow and even slavery did. And what do? Rather than say, maybe we need to rethink our assumptions, they're blaming the ready access to firearms. It's sickening. It's disgusting. You're just talking about the book, What Pisses Me Off? That pisses me off.
Well, you know, it's interesting. You talked about Jim Crow in that time period because after the Civil War, blacks were disallowed from owning guns, and there were black activists saying, no, Second Amendment's important to us. We got the KKK showing up, the Democratic Militant Arm, showing up, and we can't defend ourselves. So this is nothing new.
Well, that's right. The Dred Scott decision, one of the reasons that Justice Taney wrote it, he said, if black people aren't chattel property, my goodness, they could get firearms. Lord knows what they would do with firearms. So the whole gun control movement was a movement to make sure that blacks didn't get firearms. The whole living wage ordinance was a move to make sure that black people did not take jobs away from white people. The reason borders are porous is because employers want cheap labor. And Cesar Chavez, the head of the United Farm Worker, he was not a civil rights leader. He was a union leader, and he hated illegal immigration and worked with the authorities to stop it because he knew it threatened jobs for his union members and put downward pressure on wages. So you have the Democratic Party and Hillary Clinton advocating amnesty, wants to keep the borders porous, while the people that they claim that they care about, black and urban people living in the inner city, are having their jobs threatened and their wages are pressured downward because of illegal immigration. I mean, the whole thing is just maddening. And Donald Trump's a bigot, Donald Trump's a racist, so therefore blacks won't even consider voting for him when, in fact, the Democratic Party, the party that they are full of lever, 95% for, has done all sorts of economic damage and cultural damage and social damage to them.
Well, the cultural damage is something that I'd like to address. I'm a firm believer that the way to turn this around is to get inside the culture. And that's one of the reasons why, and I think I've sent some emails to you about this. I'm jazzed to now be a part of the Congress of Racial Equality Corps. I'm going to be working with them and Niger Ennis to get Constitution classes into minority neighborhoods and civics classes into minority neighborhoods. And included in that, of course, also will be the importance of understanding the value of being a virtuous society, a godly society, and also getting that back into the culture, because it seems that we've lost the culture, and we've lost the culture not just because of the leftist drive and infiltration into the culture, but because also those of us who do know the truth and understand what a virtuous society means and all that, we stop teaching it.
Well, that's right. We've lost the culture because we've lost fathers, and what the left wants to do is to say that all the problems that you experience in the inner city, whether it's a high percentage of dropouts, whether it's kids that cannot read, write, and compute at grade level, whether it's a disproportionate amount of crime, it's all because of, they add together, institutional racism, systemic racism, or structural racism. And it's nonsense. What's going on now is that these kids are being raised without proper values. They have no fathers in the home. They have no role models. They have no model of watching two adults, a mother and a father, disagree civilly and resolve problems. They don't see the example of somebody getting up in the morning like their old man does and coming back home tired and doing the same thing day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. They don't see that, and they're angry, and they don't know why they're angry. And then you have politicians telling them the reason that you're unhappy, the reason that you're angry is because the white man did this, the white man did that, and by the way, at one time you were slaves, and at one time there was Jim Crow, all of which can be traced back to that. And it's nonsense, but who's there to refute that? Academia, Hollywood, media, all reinforce the idea that you are a victim of powers over which you have no control. And that's why these kids are angry, and that's why stuff has happened recently, just last night at West Adams in L.A.
Folks, if you'd like to dial in and join the conversation, 951-922-3532, 951-922-3532. I'm going to hand off for a question from my co-host here, Alex Ferguson. Before I do that, I want to mention something. I had the opportunity to spend some time with the executive producer and the writer and producer of Enemies Within. Trevor Loudon wrote and produced the film, and the executive producer, Dennis Jackson. And I watched it again yesterday. And the communist infiltration through Islam, through black nationalism, through progressivism is absolutely incredible. And this film really shows how that has been going on quite well. And the reason why I bring this up is because my partner here, Alex, he's often talking about how the left isn't just a left. It isn't just a bunch of progressives. This is socialism. This is communism. This is the movement. This is us being buried from within. Alex, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, lately I've been reviewing Heather McDonald's War on Cops, her recent book, and she says that the decent people in the inner city, they're in favor of broken windows policy. They're in favor of stop and frisk. They want the police to be there in large numbers because they're threatened by these gangbangers and thugs. They're the ones that pay the price, and the powers that be in the city are only listening to the thugs.
Well, that's right. That's right. Heather McDonald, by the way, is absolutely brilliant. She's done some great work, fact-driven work that points out this whole myth about cops mowing down black people and about black people being unfairly stopped by the cops. But you're absolutely right. The majority of law-abiding, drug-abstaining, tax-paying people living in the inner city, they want a police presence. They want a bigger police presence. They want a proactive police presence. I remember years ago when they had the second Rodney King trial, the one that was downtown, and there was a feeling that maybe the verdict might, quote, go the wrong way. So they dispatched the California National Guard in the inner city to deal with any kind of violence should it erupt. And I've got a friend who's a captain in the California National Guard, Alex, and he told me that he was stationed in the inner city, and men and women were coming out of the houses in droves, coming up to him, thanking him for being there, and urging him not to leave once the verdict has been rendered. Why do you guys only come down here? He's heard over and over again, when something like this comes down, we need you here 24/7.
Well, this whole Black Lives Matter is a fraud, because when you look at New York City, for instance, where de Blasio has succeeded in getting rid of stop and frisk, the homicide rate on blacks has skyrocketed. They're dying like flies, and the people are saying, "What are you doing to us?"
Well, that's right. Excuse me. Black Lives Matter is probably the biggest fraud perpetuated on the black community since O.J. Simpson is innocent. And it turns out that 955 people were killed by the cops last year. 500 of them are white, but I defy almost any of us to name one of them, because the media doesn't give a damn when a white person is killed by a cop. It's just when a black person is killed by the cop that the media goes ballistic. And of the 250 black people that were killed last year by cops, the majority of those had weapons or otherwise were resisting arrest. Only about 4%, less than 4%, were a white cop killing an unarmed black person. But the perception is otherwise. And it turns out over the last 45 years, police shootings against blacks have declined 75%, while police shootings against whites have flatlined. It is rare for anybody to be shot by a cop, let alone a black person, let alone an unarmed black person. To give a little perspective, 400 people were injured last year in this country by lightning. I've never met anybody that was injured by lightning, but it happens 400 times a year. And if the media covered people that got injured by lightning when it rains as often as they cover police shootings, I wouldn't leave the house when it rains.
Well, Black Lives Matter, understand, Alex and Larry, this is part of the Hegelian dialectic. You create the problem, racism, then you create an opposition of the problem, Black Lives Matter, then you create a solution to the problem, more government. I mean, that's, and this is, when we talk about the Hegelian dialectic, that is also what Karl Marx fed off of. Well, right. We got to quit for break. When we return, we'll wrap up our conversation with Larry Elder. We also have in the studio with us Brian Curtis, and more after the break. Don't go anywhere.
You got a dent in your door, a scratch in your fender, or a scratch in your door and a dent in your fender. If you need auto detailing, if you need fire shooting decals on the side of your car, if you need a rally stripe right down the middle of your hardtop, I don't care what it is. The Patriots at All-Star Collision are the place you want to go. They're the only place to go. 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Web address allstarci.com to see all that they do and what they're all about. Phone number 951-279-9161. All-Star Collision, the kings of wreck and roll.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the business's advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Our records indicate you've been lied to. Welcome to the truth. Douglas V. Gibbs.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
What's your constitutional IQ? Your quest to learn the Constitution can be fun for the whole family. Learn about the Constitution.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
Welcome back, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, right here on KMET 1490 AM. On the air, we have with us Larry Elder, LarryElder.com. Larry Elder is a radio host, nationally syndicated radio host, author of a number of books. My favorite, the one that I most recently read, and it meant a lot to me, Dear Father, Dear Son. You also got What's Race Got to Do with It, Showdown, The 10 Things You Can't Say in America, and Clear and Present Dangers in America. That's the new one. Welcome back to the program, audience, and welcome back, Larry Elder. It's great to have you on with us. And real quick before I have Curt throw a question your way, Dear Father, Dear Son, when I hear you speak, you talk about your relationship with your father and that discussion the two of you had in the diner, and it means a lot to people like me who, in my case, I really didn't get to spend a lot of time around my father as well, and there's certain father issues. How has that been received in the black community?
It has been tremendously well received. I am so gratified by the reception. It's my last book, and you can just read the reviews on Amazon.com. There are 124 of them.
Wow.
And one guy recently told me that he had a wonderful relationship with his children. They didn't have any issues with him as far as he knew, but because of the book, he wanted to sit down and have a thorough conversation with them. They're now in their 20s and 30s, and he found out that they did have some issues with him that he didn't even know about. And so they were able to clear the air and have an even better relationship going forward. He always did have a good relationship, but it got even better. So it's not just for people that had a bad or non-existent relationship with their dad. I think it's for anybody. All kids have an issue with how their parents parent, and whether or not their parents do it in a way that the kids perceive to be loving at the time. And so it's a really cathartic book for a lot of people. I wrote the book because I fell out with my dad when I was 15 years old, didn't speak to him for almost 10 years. And we sat down for what I thought would be a 10-minute conversation. It ended up being an 8-hour conversation, and he went from being this grumpy SOB to this kind, caring, sensitive guy over this 8-hour period of time. So it was quite an experience. He and I became the best of friends for the next 35 years of his life. I want to say something real quickly, though, about the Black Lives Matter, this whole phenomenon. One thing that I just wish these so-called black leaders and non-black leaders would say, and it's real simple: comply, and you won't die. You don't have a legal right to defy an unlawful order by a police officer. By the way, you don't have a legal right to defy an unlawful order by the police officer, according to the Supreme Court, unless it is accompanied with excessive force. It is your duty as a citizen to comply with an order. Had all these people complied, whether it's Eric Gardner, the man who died in New York, or Freddie Gray, the man who died in Baltimore, or Michael Brown, the man who died in Ferguson, or Tamir Rice, the young man who died in Cleveland, they all would have been alive had they complied. Comply, and if you feel that you've been mistreated, get a badge number and deal with it later while you're still alive.
Now, in the studio with us, we have Curt Nordal, or a.k.a. Brian Curtis. He's the author of What Pisses Me Off About the Good Old USA, and he has a question for you, Larry. Go ahead, Curt.
Yeah, Larry, hey, been a long-time follower. Really appreciate everything you're doing out there. I wrote a good section on race relations in my book, and I talk about the breakdown of the family in the black community. It seems to me, we talk about all the problems within the community, but what is the short-term and long-term strategies to bring that community back, to grow it, to get it to where they're going to be able to succeed and obtain things that they should be obtaining in this great country?
Well, the short-term strategy is all hands on deck. We need people in the inner city to work and serve as role models. There's a wonderful organization called the Brotherhood of a New Destiny by Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, and there's many organizations like that in L.A. And all over the country. And these are people often who didn't have relationship with their own dad, but have realized that you've got to forgive him and then recognize that your life is a series of choices. And people need to be told the truth. They need to be told you're not a victim. Your life is in your hands to a greater degree in America than any other country in the world, including all of those in Africa. And it's not. And the people that are telling you that you're a victim are not your friends. But you need people, teachers, members of the clergy, nonprofits, individuals to get out in the street and to serve as mentors. People are willing to help. The help is there. You just have to be willing to receive that help. That's the short term. The long term is we've got to stop this automatic. You get a check from the government. The government shouldn't be involved in the welfare business anyway. It should be done at the state and local level. And even on the efficiency level, government is less efficient than our nonprofits. I used to loan myself out to United Way. For every dollar you give to the United Way, 95 cents of that dollar gets down to the intended beneficiary. With respect to government welfare, only about 30 cents gets down to the intended beneficiary because of inefficiency and salaries and things like that. These people are not working for free. But with nonprofits like Salvation Army, Red Cross, and other organizations, many of the individuals are retired and they're volunteering. As a result, the dollar goes further. So just on a level of efficiency, it's much better for welfare to be handled at the state and local level. And because you have to go to somebody and ask for help and then get mentored, you're more likely to change your behavior to a much more constructive way than if you just get welfare. And we know that welfare is creating dependency because in 1996, when Bill Clinton reluctantly signed the Welfare Reform Act, so that for the first time there were time limits on welfare and so-called family caps, so you didn't get additional money for when you had additional children, welfare rolls declined by over 50%, far steeper decline than anybody even predicted. It turned out a lot of able-bodied people and able-minded people were on the couch watching TV, and when the game was up, they got off the couch and got in the job market and got jobs. So we know we're doing damage.
Well, Ben Franklin said that the worst thing you can do for the poor is make them comfortable in their poverty.
That's absolutely right. And the LA Times in 1985 did a poll, and they polled people who were below the level of poverty and above the level of poverty. And they asked a series of questions, one of which was this: do you believe that women on welfare often, seldom, or never have additional children to get additional money? The people above poverty said, no, that's not true. They probably thought it was demeaning or racist. However, the people who are below the level of poverty, 64% of them said women on welfare often have additional children to get additional money. They also asked this: do you believe that welfare is a helping hand to get you on your own 2 feet, or do you believe it creates dependency? More poor people said it creates dependency than said it gives you a helping hand. Now, these are the very people that the non-poor claim that they're caring about, telling you this is not working. It is creating dependency.
Well, I was listening to a black conservative woman talk to a Tea Party convention one time, and she says, hey, all you Tea Party people, I appreciate you trying to teach liberty and freedom, but the problem is you're talking to a group of people, and all they know is they want free stuff. How do you convince them that the free stuff is the problem.
Again, you have to tell the truth, and you have to cut off the spigot. The compelling story about Dr. Ben Carson, he often talks about how his mother raised him,
Right.
and I think he had one other brother. She was eligible for welfare, but she got on the bus and rode that bus hours each way because she knew that it created dependency. She did not want her children to see her married to the government. So she declined the welfare that was available, and as a result, you have two very productive men who came out of that environment. Welfare is a narcotic. It's a drug. It's a crutch. And if people knew that, they'd be much less likely to drink the Kool-Aid. But more than that, it ought not be available. If you are a woman, you have a kid outside of wedlock, you get food stamps, you get AFDC, you get women, infant, and children programs, you get daycare vouchers, you get transportation vouchers, and often you even get an apartment. You add it all up, she's married the government and allowed the man to abandon his financial and moral responsibility. And it is a moral crime what the left has done to this country.
Well, Larry Elder, I want to thank you for the time that you spent with us today on the radio program. I want to give you a chance right now to plug everything you want to plug, as you've got your website, your books, and so much more going on. Let the audience know everything that you've got going on.
Well, thank you for that. I've got a blog called elderstatement.com, elderstatement.com. My radio show is in over 200 markets on Salem Radio, so just check your local listings and you can find it. My latest book is Dear Father, Dear Son, 2 lives, 8 hours, and I'm very active on Facebook. I think that's about everything. Also, you can subscribe to my podcast by going to LarryElder.com. That's LarryElder.com.
And definitely excited about us being in touch and staying in touch, especially as I venture into this exciting new venture with CORE and with Nigel Rennis. And I'll keep you posted on how that's going as we progress with that. I'm very excited about being a part of that. And thank you so much for being a part of the program. Really enjoyed having you, and we're definitely going to have you back again in the future.
Thank you very much, and give my best to Nigel. He's a good man.
Oh, he's awesome. All right, thank you very much. Have a great one.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, Larry Elder, Salem Broadcasting. You know, last time I had a chance to talk with him a couple weeks ago, he was telling me that his audience now is larger than he's ever had since he's been in radio. And this is interesting because he had been let go by ABC radio, wound up online for a while, and then suddenly he gets picked up by Salem. He's got this huge audience. And it goes to show that sometimes when something rough happens that seems negative on the surface, you don't know what's on the other side of the hill. It could be something absolutely fantastic. And I'm very happy for Larry. And I'm going to tell you right now, he is a voice of reason. Absolutely love listening to his programs, enjoy his books. And I tell you what, we were in the presence of greatness on this program right there. All right, Alex, any final words about Mr. Elder's time with us?
Back in the old days, if you're old as I am to remember, there was a group called Talking Drums that tried to get rid of Larry Elder. And they pulled all kinds of stuff, like they would take a quote where he was quoting somebody who was saying something negative to show how bad they were, and they would play his reading of that quote as if it was his own statement. He won. There is no more Talking Drums group, but Larry Elder is riding high.
Well, I tell you what, the best revenge is success. The best revenge against those who try to bring you down and stomp you down to success. And Larry has definitely reached a level of success that I am jazzed for him about. He's been on Fox News regularly. And matter of fact, he was on with Nigel Rennis a few weeks ago right there on Fox. And I had a chance to talk to Nigel last week, and that's another fantastic individual. For those of you who are not familiar with Nigel Rennis, look him up, Nigerinnis. Okay, now, before we move on, in the studio with us, Curt Nordal, author, What Pisses Me Off About the Good Old USA, and excited to have you in here. Thank you for participating
Doug,
with the interview with Mr. Elder.
It's been great.
Tell us a little bit about the book.
What pisses me off about the good old USA is a topical book of issues that have pissed me off over the years, and issues that affect our country, everything from the Second Amendment to legal immigration to race relations. I just have a huge issue in there about law enforcement, and we're going through some pretty sad news last week with the loss of sheriff's officer up in Lancaster, Sergeant Owen, and then two police officers here locally in Palm Springs. And so I just talk about issues that affect this country and give some kind of solutions of how we should turn things around. And so it's a good topical read. It's easy to read. It's about 200 pages. And if you're interested, go to Barnes & Noble online, Amazon, iTunes. It's all there.
Now, I've heard the story, but I want the audience to hear the story. How'd you come up with the name?
So I was on a flight to New York, and I was working on the outline and the manuscript. And this girl sitting next to me asked me what I was doing. And I said, I'm writing a book. And she goes, what about? I go, well, it's about topics that really just kind of pissed me off about this country. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and I said, I think I just found the the name of the book right there. What pisses me off about the good old USA? And she says, I love that. And I said, well, that's it. That's going to be the topic of the book. I wrote it down, and that's how it came about. And so far, it's doing very well. We're sold out. We're about 2 weeks out on getting copies, so it's moving.
Yeah, I know. Last time I was talking to you, I had wondered why you didn't have copies on you. He said, well, I can't even get copies. We're sold out.
Yeah, I just ordered 10 copies a week ago. I haven't gotten them yet. Okay. So that tells you it's a good thing.
Well, as an author myself, I always try to have at least 20 or 30 copies of each of my titles with me, because you just never know, when you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be selling them out of the trunk of your car.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the one thing is, when you're not self-published, it's hard to get your book. So if you're self-published, it's easier to obviously get your copies quicker. So
well, it's funny because you got a publisher not only to publish your book, but not want to monkey with the content.
Yes.
And I got to meet your publisher because I had an agent for the first book, 25 Myths Constitution. We wound up with 3 possible publishers. All 3 of them were considering publishing it, but they wanted to make changes I was not willing to make.
Yeah. Page Publishing out of New York was incredible to work with. One of the main things was we weren't going to touch the content, and they were very much behind not touching that content. They liked the way that it read originally, and they liked the context and the topics, and so right from the get-go, the content and the format was not going to change.
Well, the publishing industry is so liberal that I'm just, because I'm telling you, I've been in the business of trying to get my stuff published since the 90s, since the early to mid 90s.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll make an introduction for you, and we'll see if we can get you on page.
I tell you what, well, not that I'm complaining about self-publishing, because but I sell a lot more when I do public speaking announcements or engagements, should I say, than I do online. And we're trying to get Alex here. He's got some stuff that he needs to get out there in print also. And so I've been working with him slowly but surely. We're not going to get it done as quick as we wanted, but we will get it done. All right, now that all said, let's go to break. When we come back, we got a few stories I want to talk about. We're going to keep Curt in the studio with us because we're going to get his opinion on also what's going on in the world. And, of course, we got Alex and yours truly right here on Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs. Don't miss anything. Come back after the break.
Hi, this is Ed Hoffman, President Wholesale Capital Corporation, your direct mortgage lender. Real estate prices are still low, which means now's the time to buy your next home before they go up. Whether it's a home to live in, a vacation house, or an investment property, we can meet your mortgage financing needs to help you realize the next phase of your American dream. At Wholesale Capital Corporation, we make sure you get a loan that you can afford with terms that work for you. Wholesale Capital welcomes FHA buyers, conventional buyers, jumbo loan buyers, and we proudly help the U.S. military veterans take advantage of the zero down payment VA loan program. Nobody treats veterans better than Wholesale Capital Corporation. Seniors, if you're interested in creating an additional stream of income or just making your mortgage payment go away with a reverse mortgage, Wholesale Capital would love to help you. To speak with a loan officer who has your best interests in mind, call Wholesale Capital at 855-640-2020. That's area code 855-640-2020. Wholesale Capital Corporation, where we can close.
We are the socialists. You will be assimilated. Your individual liberties, personal freedoms, and mental individuality will be added to our own. Resistance is futile.
Help me fight the good fight. This radio program is funded by advertising dollars. So, if you are a business, add Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs to your business portfolio. If you are a listener, become a patron of the business's advertising on this program. Without advertising, your weekend dose of truth ends. With more advertising, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs grows, and we will be on the way to win the battle to restore the Republic. To learn more, email us at constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com or visit douglasvgibbs.com.
The true patriots of All-Star Collision have been proudly serving the Inland Empire for over 20 years. Built on honesty, integrity, quality, and old-fashioned customer service, we offer lifetime warranties for our work, and every vehicle serviced by All-Star Collision is washed, detailed, the headlights polished, fluids are checked and topped off, safety checked, and returned in showroom condition. We offer free estimates, are approved by major insurance companies, and accept all claims for all cars and trucks. We use computerized frame straightening to factory specifications, offer fiberglass body repair and paint, free local pickup and delivery, and after-hours towing. Mention this radio program at drop-off and receive $100 off or a free rental car for up to 5 days during your repair. Visit us at allstarci.com or at 522 Railroad Street in Corona. Call us at 951-279-9161. We are the kings of wreck and roll.
Welcome back, Constitution Radio with Douglas V. Gibbs, right here on KMET 1490 AM every Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, except when exciting University of Redlands football preempts us, which, hey, how did they do last week, by the way, Sean? If I'm going to be preempted, they better have won.
Yeah, actually, they did win.
All right. Now that we're back on the air, we have the All-Star Collision big stories of the week. All-Star Collision, allstarci.com. Right there in Corona, if you have a ding, if you have a crack, if you have a dent in your door, go to All-Star Collision. All-Star Collision, allstarci.com. Okay, cyber war. Now this is actually kind of bothering. When I was a young man, I played a lot of basketball, and when we play basketball, one of the things that you learn is you don't telegraph your passes, you don't telegraph your shots. You don't want the opposition to know what you're doing next. And in fact, misdirection is a huge part of sports, be it football or basketball or whatnot. Well, the same thing goes for national security. And that's why you don't tell the enemy when you plan to withdraw troops, and you definitely don't warn them if you are preparing to attack. The Obama administration, blaming Russia on being behind the hacking of Clinton emails, has warned Russia that the U.S. is planning to begin a cyber war with Russia. They are telegraphing that they are going to attack through a cyber war. The Obama administration they used actually in their announcement, used the word covert. How covert can it be when you telegraph your shot? Vice President Joe Biden, in an interview with NBC's Chuck Todd, explained the administration has asked the CIA to draft plans for a wide-ranging clandestine cyber operation designed to harass and embarrass the Kremlin leadership. Well, first of all, I don't even know if they have the evidence that Russia's behind Assange's WikiLeaks, and Assange says they're not. And even if they did, why would you telegraph your offensive intentions against Russia on national television?
My opinion is that when you watch Obama's administration deal with threats and with attacks, they never retaliate. They never do anything to push back. But now their candidate for president is under attack. And as a consequence, they're willing to go to war to get the WikiLeaks to stop leaking. That's what it's all about.
Well, it's the infamous, draw the red line in the sand, but we don't cross that red line with any kind of opposition threat or action. And, you like to think that these people aren't this stupid, that they're not going to telegraph this stuff. It's like going back to the Vietnam War. We always told the enemy when we were going to be, when we were going to drop troops in, and they were just waiting for us. And that's what's going to happen if this happens. I would like to think that this is maybe a smokescreen. Maybe they're just, telegraphing that the CIA is going to go on cyber warfare and go after Russia, China, whoever else. And I would like to think something else behind the scenes is taking place, and this is just a smokescreen. But unfortunately, I think they are that stupid. I think they do want to telegraph what we're doing, and it's absolutely going to hurt us.
Next story, smear campaign Witness tells Trump that the groping story on the plane that the witness sat across from and saw nothing. It was a bunch of junk. Meanwhile, we got Trump's locker room talk where he said in a private conversation, never know when a mic's on, I guess. Is that what we were talking about that earlier, Alex? Locker room talk.
As I understand it, and this has been confirmed by several people, including Rush Limbaugh, the first-class seating arrangements in these airliners does not and never has had an arm between the passengers that you can lift like a theater arm to get it out of the way. And one of these ladies is part of her scenario for the groping was that Trump had lifted the arm of the seat to reach over and grab her. And there are women who are stewardesses and have been for 30-some years saying it can't happen that way. We don't have movable arms on first-class chairs.
I've flown first class before, and I've never had a removable arm come up in first class, so I can definitely say that's the fact. Also, the family members are coming out against this lady, saying she just wants fame and fortune out of this. So this is a scam all the way.
Well, I saw on the news this morning that there's another one now, another woman claiming that he's groped her or something like that. And what's happening is the Clinton campaign, they are doing whatever they can to stop Trump. You could tell they're nervous because they're doing whatever they can. But, Alex, you have a complaint about Trump's response.
Well, Trump is there's something wrong with the guy, and that doesn't disqualify him from being president, but it does make it difficult for him to win an election, and that is that he takes things personally. He's been advised by everybody to get off the bimbo eruptions, stop playing in that court, because that's where he gets smeared, and Hillary is untouched. What he needs to do is pivot and go after Hillary. And as far as these bimbo eruptions that are happening now, the irony of ironies is that the worst molester, the worst sexual predator in American history as far as the presidency goes is Bill Clinton. He was convicted of perjury. His wife enabled him, all this stuff going on, and now they're playing the wounded pigeon. Oh, how can you be such a terrible guy? The hypocrisy is thick enough to cut with a knife.
Well, and, the Democrats have always done a great job going on defense like this, and it's a typical defense mechanism. It's an attorney move. You wave your hand over here while the issue's over here,
right?
And you get people to bite on the hook, and they're very good at doing that.
Mirrors, misdirection, and all that jazz.
And Trump is biting on that, and he should. He's got to redirect back to the issues and hammer away on the issues, and that's where we're going to win this if we have a fighting chance.
So what we're saying is the Democrats don't know how to play the game when it comes to the Russians, but when it comes to Republicans, boy, they've got the game down pat.
They're hands-on, and I would say they've got a good game plan on that issue, absolutely.
All right, next story, Never Trump infects the GOP. We've got GOP leaders that are, what's wrong with Paul Ryan?
Jumping ship.
What's going on here? Because, I think most of us can say Mr. Trump was not our number one person on our list.
So true.
But you know what? He's our guy. He's
Absolutely.
not Hillary. He's our guy. He's a capitalist. He loves the country. And if he is going to do the things he's saying, it's pretty tremendous stuff. And it's stuff that we've been waiting for candidates to say.
Absolutely. And we're all waiting for this. And the reason why I think Ryan and everybody else who's, abandoning him, I think they're scared. If he gets in, he's going to go and he's going to shake that ship up, and he's going to change some things. And I think some of these top Republicans in their seats, they're scared. They're going to lose, their golden parachutes. They're going to lose their careers possibly, and they're now thinking, this guy may have a fighting chance, and they're going to do everything they can to try to keep him out. It's ridiculous.
Well, these Republicans like big government. They'll tell you, we'll run big government in a conservative manner, as if that's not an oxymoron. It was them that brought marriage, for example, to the federal government with DOMA.
Yes.
And it's not the federal government's business, but it was the Republicans that brought it to the federal government, not the Democrats.
Exactly. And like everything else, they've had a majority for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
They control the purse strings to this nation. Why have they kept funding everything that Obama has brought to the table and the Democrats? That's scary. That tells me something.
The chattering classes are complaining that the conservative Republicans are splitting the party. It's my contention that the party has been split all along, and we're only now becoming aware of it. There is a working man, conservative, grassroots that's strong and American and patriotic, and then you've got these country club Republicans who they're genteel, they're delicate, they can't lower themselves to actually fight it out with the Democrats, and any kind of grittiness or unpleasantness, and they're like these nuns walking by a whorehouse. They turn their eyes and they declare that they have nothing to do with such activity, and in the meantime they're destroying the party.
I agree, Alex. There's definitely been a split, and the split's been going on for about 15, 20 years. And we as a country, we've got to come together. We as conservatives need to come together to change this direction. It's not healthy.
Well, the split's always been there. I mean, look at what Ronald Reagan faced. I mean,
exactly.
In '76, the establishment was too afraid of him. He was too conservative, so they chose the safer, more moderate candidate, Ford, and we saw what happened. Go back to Goldwater and the split then. You go back to Mr. Smith goes to Washington, for God's sake, and you can see it. So it's nothing new, but I think you're right, Alex. Now it's glaring us in the face in ways that it never did before. And when I say us in the face, we've always known, but now people who really have never really been involved are recognizing it, and that scares the establishment. And I've been saying this all along, and understand, Mr. Trump was number 15 on my original list of 17. I mean, I even had Jeb Bush ahead of him, and I don't like Jeb Bush. But that said, all along, what I've been saying about Mr. Trump is the reason why his supporters like him is he's, number one, he's that stick in the spokes of the establishment, and number two, he's the bigger hammer in the rock yard. And that scares the establishment. And I will say this about Mr. Trump, even though I was not a fan at first. Everybody that fears and hates him is everybody I dislike politically. So you know what? What could it hurt?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. And I think Pamela Geller's description was best. I talked to her one time in L.A. at an American Freedom Alliance event, and she says, we need a brass knuckles fighter, and he's a brass knuckles fighter.
Yeah, he's a bulldog. He's a blue collar bulldog, and that's who we need to take this country back.
He's a construction guy too.
Absolutely.
Even though he's the billionaire and all that, it was all about construction. And I spent 14 years in construction. And let me tell you, construction is a whole different animal. And it is let's go to work, let's tear it up, let's fix it, whatever it takes. You don't let go. You make sure it happens. And it's that's the type of attitude he has.
People in construction are doers. They see something, they build it, they get it going, and that's what he does. He's a business development man. He says what he does, and he does it. Worldwide, this man has created a huge workforce development initiative everywhere he's gone. He builds businesses. He could do the same thing for our country. He can build this business.
The problem with the gentility like Ryan is that they're willing to sacrifice the Supreme Court on the altar of their not getting their hands dirty. They're not having to get down in the muck and fight it out. And I'm saying that is the worst kind of to me, treason.
Well, and from a constitutional point of view, a friend of mine says, well, Doug, doesn't even understand the Constitution. Doesn't that bother you? I said, well, he's actually in good company. I can only think of two presidents since 1900 that had a pretty good handle on the Constitution, Reagan and Calvin Coolidge.
Well, Obama understands the Constitution, and he hates it.
Yeah.
And as a consequence, he uses it for toilet paper.
All right, final story, conservative infiltration. One of our biggest complaints has been how the left has infiltrated us in so many ways, the education industry, the entertainment industry, the political, and all. They've infiltrated it. Saul Alinsky, if you watched Hillary's America, and it goes over how Saul Alinsky was talking about attacking it from the outside, and Hillary Clinton, as a young woman, says, I disagree. I think we should infiltrate it, get inside, become the system. Why aren't we doing the same? Why aren't we as conservatives, now that we are on the outside, working to do the same thing? And this is why I'm kind of excited about the Congress of Racial Equality that I'm now part of, and to get Constitution classes and civics classes in the minority neighborhoods. Let's infiltrate and let's teach them the importance of patriotic assimilation.
Yeah, in order to teach them, you have to provide them with some results from that too, I would think. In order to teach somebody, you got to show them this is going to be the results.
Right.
My dad always said, with the Democrat, you can throw them a rope to save them, but the rope's never tied off. And so you got to be able to tie that rope off to show people how you can use that rope to get to success.
Right.
And so I agree. In order to infiltrate and to bring these ideas to these folks, to teach them how to succeed, you got to show them results and steps to go through. And leaders in the community have got to come through and do that.
Yeah, matter of fact, the idea with what I'm doing with CORE is that I would hire the instructors from within the neighborhoods. It would be one of them doing the teaching. Yeah. Alex, aside from what I'm doing with CORE, do you know of any other ways that we can infiltrate the leftist establishment with conservative ideas?
We have to reach out to the students. We have to reach out to the minority communities. For instance, I'm studying Spanish every day in order to talk on Spanish language talk radio. The problem is the geologist will tell you that the diamond is the hardest substance there is. That's not true. The hardest thing there is on Earth is culture. And once these people have created a culture like they have on campus or they have in the newsrooms where left-wing thought is a given,
right?
Breaking into that is murder. And the way they did it was starting with the young people. We've got to reach the young people. The way they did it was starting with the minorities. We've got to reach the minorities and just let them know what their true interest is.
And with that said, we're out of time. Alex, it's time for you to plug yourself.
Go to conservativecannonade.org. I'm telling you, you won't be sorry.
And Curt, tell everybody about your book real quick.
What Pisses Me Off About the Good Old USA, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes.
And I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host, DouglasVGibbs.com, PoliticalPistachio.com, ConstitutionAssociation.com. Also, I want to plug a film, The Enemies Within, EnemiesWithinMovie.com, Trevor Loudon's masterpiece. Get it, buy it, see it, spread the word. The movie is fantastic. Also, always remember, United States, my friends, you patriots out there, united we stand, combined we kick butt, and God bless America. And my friends, God bless you. Thank you for spending the time with us here on KMET. We'll see you next week. Same time right here, 1490 AM. See you then.